Today I would like to invite you to listen to the Dhammapada of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the 100th verse from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel TN Thai in the USA. Better than 1,000 utterances, comprising useless words, is one single beneficial word, by hearing which one is pacified. When we reflect on this verse, we are invited to see the power of speech as a doorway to peace. Words are not merely sounds. They are carriers of intention, energy, and meaning. Many words are spoken each day, yet most of them scatter like dry leaves in the wind. They may amuse. They may irritate. They may pass without leaving a trace. Yet a single word spoken from wisdom can calm the heart, uplift the mind, and guide a being toward liberation. The Buddha offers this teaching to remind us that the purpose of speech is not to fill silence with noise, but to convey truth, understanding, and compassion. When we hear a beneficial word, our mind is pacified. The turbulence of doubt, confusion, and craving subsides. The heart rests in clarity. The awareness that rises from a single word of wisdom is more profound than thousands of careless words that do not awaken understanding. In the stories connected with this verse, we find the tale of a layperson who came to the Buddha troubled by constant worry. He spoke at length, recounting all the difficulties he faced in life. The Buddha listened patiently and then said only a single phrase: "Do not cling, for all things are impermanent." The layperson reflected deeply upon these words. His heart, which had been restless, became still. In that moment, he realized that the countless thoughts he carried had obscured the truth he already possessed. One simple utterance of wisdom carried the weight of 1,000 idle words. The Buddha's teaching here is gentle yet profound. It shows that clarity is not found in quantity, but in quality. When speech is guided by insight and compassion, it has the power to awaken understanding and bring peace to the mind of the listener. The Dhammapada repeatedly emphasizes mindfulness in speech. To speak without thought, to repeat words without meaning, is to scatter energy. Words can inflame anger, create confusion, or spread fear. Even if well-intentioned, words without wisdom are like empty vessels. Yet a word spoken from understanding and compassion is like a lamp in the darkness. It illuminates the mind. It guides the heart. It pacifies the restless emotions that cloud perception. When the Buddha refers to a beneficial word, he refers not to verbosity or eloquence, but to truth. Truth that, when heard, resonates within, calms agitation, and encourages reflection. To hear such a word is to taste freedom. It requires attention, openness, and humility. When a person listens sincerely, the heart naturally softens. The mind naturally settles. Understanding blooms quietly, without force or struggle. The principle of this verse extends to all aspects of communication. Speech is a vehicle for Dharma, and like any vehicle, it is effective only when used wisely. The Buddha cautions against idle chatter, gossip, and frivolous talk because they distract the mind, waste energy, and perpetuate confusion. Conversely, even a single carefully chosen word of wisdom can change the course of a person's life. It can relieve suffering, spark insight, and guide beings toward the path of liberation. This is the deep meaning of pacification. The heart is relieved not by distraction, not by avoidance, and not by accumulation of words, but by encountering truth. One word, spoken with clarity, can open the door to understanding that remains with the listener for a lifetime. In the commentary of the Dhammapada, there are accounts of disciples who would gather around the Buddha and listen intently. Sometimes he would speak at length. Sometimes he would say only a few words. On one occasion, a disciple troubled by anger and resentment approached him. The Buddha spoke one sentence: "Anger harms yourself before it harms others. Let it go." The disciple sat in silence, contemplating the words. Slowly, the heat of anger cooled. Clarity arose. He understood how he had been feeding suffering through his own thoughts and words. The Buddha demonstrated that the transformative effect of speech does not depend on the number of words. It depends on their depth, their clarity, and the sincerity with which they are spoken and heard. To integrate this teaching into our lives, we reflect on how we use our own speech. Each word has the potential to heal or to harm, to uplift or to depress, to awaken or to cloud. Mindful speech requires attention to the listener, attention to the purpose, and attention to the truth contained in what we speak. Even in casual conversation, a word chosen with care can pacify a heart, encourage understanding, and plant a seed of wisdom. Conversely, careless words, even if spoken often, leave no trace of benefit. This is why the Buddha emphasizes quality over quantity. It is better to speak less and speak meaningfully than to speak constantly without mindfulness. The discipline of speech is one of the most direct ways to cultivate compassion, wisdom, and peace in daily life. Hearing is equally important. To hear wisely is to receive the gift of pacification. When we listen attentively to beneficial words, our hearts are prepared to absorb their meaning. When we receive the Dharma sincerely, we are nourished internally, not superficially. A single teaching, understood deeply, can pacify the turbulence of the mind more than endless discussion or speculation. This verse reminds us that the path of liberation is not built on excess, but on clarity. The heart recognizes truth when it is presented simply, clearly, and compassionately. The Buddha's words are meant to awaken insight, reduce suffering, and encourage mindfulness in all beings. Hearing them with sincerity is itself a practice that fosters calm, understanding, and equanimity. The teaching of this verse also calls our attention to the inner nature of pacification. To be pacified means that the mind ceases to be agitated, restless, or grasping. It is a state of gentle clarity, free from the turbulence of unwholesome thoughts and emotions. When we hear a beneficial word, it does not merely provide intellectual understanding. It touches the heart. It softens resistance, calms fear, and nourishes trust. In the Dharma, the Buddha often illustrated this through examples in the scriptures. One such story tells of a young monk who was struggling with jealousy toward his fellow disciples. He complained endlessly about perceived injustices and the successes of others. The Buddha did not admonish him with a long discourse. Instead, he spoke a simple phrase: compare not yourself with others. The mind at ease is richer than all treasures. In that instant, the young monk's restless thoughts softened. He began to see the futility of comparison and the value of inner cultivation. This single utterance brought more transformation than hours of argument or reasoning could have achieved. It demonstrates that the power of speech lies in precision, clarity, and the wisdom behind the words, not in the quantity spoken. Words, when spoken mindfully, carry a potency that is subtle yet profound. A single beneficial word can touch a wound that has been long hidden, reveal a truth that has been long ignored, or ignite the light of insight in a mind clouded by confusion. The Buddha frequently reminded his disciples that much of the suffering in the world arises from careless speech. Gossip, exaggeration, false claims, and idle chatter create turbulence in both the speaker and the listener. Each thoughtless word contributes to misunderstanding, conflict, and restlessness. By contrast, a single word that embodies compassion, clarity, and wisdom becomes a balm to the mind. It does not simply convey information, it fosters peace. It does not simply occupy space, it cultivates understanding. This is why the Buddha said that one beneficial word surpasses 1,000 useless ones. The verse also teaches us about the importance of discernment in listening. Hearing a beneficial word requires attentiveness and a receptive heart. The listener must be present and willing to reflect deeply. Without this readiness, even the wisest words may pass unnoticed. In the Dhammapada commentary, there is a story of a group of villagers who sought guidance from the Buddha. They arrived tired and confused, speaking at length about their problems. The Buddha listened in silence. Then he spoke only one sentence. All formations are impermanent. Understanding this frees the mind. Some villagers initially thought the words too few, too simple, or too vague. Yet those who reflected upon them found that their hearts settled, that worries loosened, and that clarity arose. They realized that they had been seeking complex answers to a problem that could be resolved by simple understanding. This illustrates the point that the efficacy of speech depends not on quantity, but on the alignment of wisdom and the readiness of the mind to receive it. A further lesson of this verse concerns the cultivation of our own speech in daily life. We are surrounded by opportunities to speak, yet not every word we utter is beneficial. Many of us repeat thoughts out of habit, pride, or restlessness. Yet when we cultivate the intention to speak only words that are true, kind, and useful, we create harmony within and around us. Even one word, carefully chosen and sincerely spoken, can prevent harm, foster understanding, and bring peace to another heart. The Buddha emphasizes that this is the essence of skillful speech. Speaking with mindfulness is not about restricting expression, but about awakening the recognition that words are living forces. Each word can either bind or release, obscure or illuminate, agitate or pacify. The disciple who practices this attentively aligns speech with wisdom, and in doing so, contributes to the welfare of all beings. We also learn from this verse the profound simplicity of the Dharma. The teachings are often direct and uncomplicated, yet their effect is transformative. The Buddha's method of instruction was not to overwhelm listeners with endless lectures, but to speak concisely and meaningfully. Even the shortest instruction, when understood and reflected upon, can calm fear, relieve doubt, and guide toward right understanding. This is evident in many stories of disciples who were pacified and inspired by a few words from the Buddha. A simple reminder to let go of anger, a gentle instruction to observe the breath, or a brief reflection on impermanence often catalyzed insight more effectively than long explanations. This teaches us that the Dharma is most powerful when it touches the heart rather than the intellect alone. Hearing a beneficial word also cultivates faith and confidence in the path. When the mind is burdened by confusion or suffering, it longs for guidance. A single word, delivered with wisdom and compassion, can ignite the motivation to practice sincerely. The Buddha used speech in this way, tailoring each word to the capacity and circumstances of the listener. In the case of lay disciples, sometimes the simplest admonition or encouragement was enough to pacify doubt and inspire ethical conduct. In the case of monastics, a brief correction or encouragement could awaken insight and deepen understanding. This highlights the timeless truth in the verse. The effectiveness of speech is not measured by its length, but by its power to bring peace. The verse also reminds us that listening with presence is a form of practice. To receive a beneficial word with full attention is itself an act of mindfulness. It is a recognition of the preciousness of the Dharma and of the opportunity to be guided. When the mind is attentive, the word penetrates deeply, touching layers of conditioning, habits, and misunderstanding. This is why meditation, reflection, and careful listening are emphasized in the teachings. They prepare the heart to receive wisdom fully. When the mind is calm and focused, even a single phrase can dissolve confusion and plant the seeds of liberation. This is the essence of pacification described by the Buddha in this verse. The Buddha's teaching in this verse also invites us to examine the broader impact of speech on the world around us. Words are not isolated. They ripple through the consciousness of the listener, shaping thoughts, emotions, and actions. A careless word can ignite conflict, deepen misunderstanding, or perpetuate suffering. By contrast, a beneficial word, spoken with mindfulness and compassion, can pacify, enlighten, and transform. Consider the story of a young monk who struggled with pride and competitiveness among his peers. He frequently boasted of his abilities, seeking recognition and admiration. The elder monks patiently listened but said little. One day, a venerable teacher offered a single sentence: "The mind that seeks nothing is truly rich." The young monk reflected deeply upon these words. Slowly, his pride softened, and he began to observe his own mind with clarity. He realized that his happiness had been dependent upon the approval of others, and that true contentment arose from inner freedom rather than external validation. This demonstrates that even a brief, well-timed word can awaken insight, dissolve agitation, and foster lasting peace. The power of a single beneficial word is also seen in the context of daily life. We often interact with family, friends, colleagues, and strangers, exchanging words countless times. Many of these words are habitual, repetitive, or unmindful. Yet if one word is spoken with genuine compassion and wisdom, it can alter the trajectory of another being's life. A kind word can heal emotional wounds. A clear word can dispel confusion. A truthful word can guide someone from fear to courage. In the Buddha's teachings, the emphasis is always on the transformative potential of speech, not on its volume. A single utterance that arises from awareness has more merit and effect than endless speech lacking mindfulness or intention. When we internalize this teaching, we begin to recognize that our daily communication is sacred. Every word has the potential to nurture or harm. And this awareness naturally fosters ethical speech, patience, and compassion in all our interactions. The verse further instructs us on the importance of restraint in speech. The world often encourages excess, talking to dominate, to impress, to distract, or to escape silence. Yet the Buddha emphasizes that restraint is a foundation of wisdom. Speaking less, speaking mindfully, and speaking from understanding are practices that cultivate inner peace. They teach the mind to move away from restlessness, desire, and attachment. When we restrain idle speech, our energy is preserved. Our clarity deepens. The beneficial word then emerges naturally, unforced, and perfectly timed. This is the path of skillful communication. By training in mindful speech, we align our intentions with the Dharma. Every utterance becomes an opportunity for pacification, insight, and compassion. Listening is equally important in this teaching. Hearing a beneficial word requires readiness, attention, and humility. Without these qualities, even profound words may pass unnoticed, like a seed dropped on barren ground. The Buddha often spoke to disciples according to their capacity. Sometimes his teachings were brief, containing only a few words, yet those words penetrated deeply because the listeners were attentive, receptive, and reflective. For instance, when lay followers came seeking guidance on ethical living, a single phrase such as "let go of attachment to see clearly" often brought immediate clarity. The words resonated because the listeners were present. They reflected, contemplated, and applied the teaching. This exemplifies the reciprocal nature of beneficial speech. The power lies not only in the speaker, but also in the receptivity of the listener. Both must align for the transformative potential to unfold fully. Furthermore, the verse highlights the gentle nature of pacification. Pacification is not coercion or suppression. It is not about forcing the mind to comply. It arises naturally when wisdom and compassion touch the heart. When we hear a word spoken from awareness, the mind recognizes truth effortlessly. Resistance fades. Agitation softens. Confusion clarifies. The Buddha repeatedly illustrated this in his interactions with disciples. He did not overwhelm them with long lectures or complex theories. Instead, he offered concise, precise instructions tailored to each individual's understanding. This approach respects the intelligence and capacity of the listener while guiding them gently toward liberation. A single beneficial word, when heard and reflected upon, can pacify deep-rooted disturbances in the mind far more effectively than any volume of idle talk. The verse also encourages us to cultivate speech that is beneficial to all beings. Speech is a form of action. It creates karma. Every word carries weight and consequence. When we choose to speak with mindfulness, we contribute to harmony, understanding, and spiritual progress in others. When we practice this diligently, our words themselves become instruments of the Dharma. Just as a single beneficial word can pacify the mind of a listener, a life imbued with mindful speech can pacify entire communities, promoting peace, cooperation, and joy. By aligning speech with truth, compassion, and clarity, we transform ordinary interaction into an opportunity for awakening. In essence, the 100th verse invites a profound shift in how we view both speaking and listening. It teaches that fewer words, carefully chosen and mindfully delivered, have greater impact than endless chatter. It teaches that words have the power to awaken, to calm, and to guide toward liberation. It reminds us to cultivate attentive listening, restraint, and compassionate speech. It calls us to recognize that pacification is not external but internal, arising from clarity, understanding, and alignment with the Dharma. By practicing these principles, we gradually cultivate a mind that is serene, a heart that is gentle, and a life that benefits all beings. Thank you for watching my video. Namo Amitabha. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.